Hey guys, this is Evan from PC Gamer, and beside me as always, Tyler Wilde, Associate Editor, and Logan Decker, our brave Editor-in-Chief.
Hello.
And we thought we'd sit down to talk about the games of 2013. 2012 was an awesome year for the PC in a lot of different ways, but we want to already sort of start to reflect on what's upcoming. There's some really exciting stuff coming already in the early months, and I don't know, one of those games for me is Arma 3. It's not releasing, we don't know when it's releasing in 2013 per se, but I think of Arma as just one of the most PC games out there, hardcore military simulation.
It doesn't get more PC than
that. High fidelity, high fidelity ballistics modeling, really realistic. But based on what I saw at E3, I'm just really heartened so far by sort of the way Bohemia Interactive seems to be eliminating the static feel of the environment. It's sort of a trait of Arma 2, right? It's a hundreds of square kilometers of terrain. But they sort of compromise by making a lot of the buildings not enterable, and there's sort of a flatness to the world. But the world matters so much in a game like Arma because it's sort of this canvas on which the battles take place. And it's one of the few games that has a mission editor as well. So it's really important for the world to feel authentic and interesting. And from what I've seen, the way they're integrating stuff like there's like beaches and like playgrounds and power plants and all these kind of different and interesting environments that you don't see currently in Arma 2. So as a hardcore player of this game, that's what I'm most excited about in addition to the new systems.
And so, I'm sorry, what's moving around? How are they making it more dynamic?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if it's a question of it being more dynamic. It's really just a higher quality environment. Right. And it just kind of matters disproportionately. It's not like you're building a Battlefield game where it's a map where this team is always spawning over here and this team is always spawning over here. I mean, an Arma environment has to be sort of a 360-degree living, interesting world at all times and all places in different kinds of ways. But yeah, I've just been really heartened by that so far. In addition to that, I think there's sort of a sign of that Bohemia is moving out of its niche. They created the original Operation Flashpoint games. They've been doing this for a long time. But I think they're really addressing their Western audience a little bit more closely. I see that in like the higher attention to animations, like the totally redone gear system and inventory system. Thank goodness. That's always kind of been a drag in that game.
Yeah, it took a while for me to figure out playing DayZ because I'm not really a military sim player. They kind of scare me. but why Arma 3 is like super exciting for me is the totally superficial reason that when people ask me what can the PC do, I just show them a screenshot and they're like, why did you send me a photo? And sure. Like it looks that good. Like Crysis is not the benchmark anymore, assuming it really looks that good on a PC I can own right now.
Yeah, so just the focus on accessibility and playability, but without compromising any of the fidelity and detail, that's terrific. We're also going to see, we expect to see the standalone version of DayZ from Bohemia next year. And with that is going to come like some kind of architectural solutions to all the hacking we see in the mod version right now. They're totally redoing the client-server architecture.
And all those buildings you mentioned that aren't enterable can go in them.
Yeah, they're reworking the map for the purposes of DayZ, so that's really cool and encouraging. More zombies.
I always like more zombies.
Absolutely. It'd sort of be, we'd be kind of doing a bad job if we didn't mention BioShock during this video. I think we kind of think of it as a no-brainer. But I think sort of my enthusiasm for BioShock Infinite is coming from the way that game like addresses me intellectually. And as a franchise, it's not just Infinite, but the way it's an action game. It's a first-person shooter that, as a first-person shooter has its merits. It's fun and interesting in terms of weapon feel and powers and what you're able to do. But it's a game that like challenges my notions of American history. So it's sort of like sneaking these educational elements sort of in with the medicine, in with the sugar of a fun shooter experience. And I like that. Irrational is one of the few developers that sort of has those thoughtful themes built into their games.
Yeah, I love what Ken Levine in your interview said about people sort of deciding what to take away from it and getting offended about it. Like objectivists from BioShock going, this is anti-objectivist, and then some people going, this is pro-objectivist. But the fact that there are so many themes in there and it's complex enough that people can come away from it with totally different messages. So really interested to see what people think he's saying about American history here. I know he knows a lot about American history, so it's just fascinating to hear him talk about it and then play a game that challenges something in a non-sort of superficial way.
Right.
Yeah, but beyond those like sort of academic ways that I enjoy it, I guess, BioShock is kind of unique in across the industry in the way it presents a place, just a setting, and the amount of detail they throw at you is just absurd. When I had hands-on earlier this year, just the way they craft these set pieces, the parts of the world that feel like theme parks and museums and things like that, and just the way, incidental NPCs, the amount of animation that they do, the way they interact with you, it's like they're throwing these highly detailed things at you that you kind of just pass by, and their willingness to like handcraft everything, and their commitment to detail is kind of peerless. I
mean, honestly, the first time I saw any footage from BioShock Infinite, I felt the same way I did when I first started BioShock, which was, I enjoyed it on a very superficial level. It was just a sensual experience, Then you can hear things going on all around you. You see a shadow flickering on a wall, and what is it? Is it somebody, something you have to be worried about? Is it an enemy? Is it a friend? And then now you look at BioShock Infinite today, and it's gorgeous. It's unbelievably beautiful. It's burnished golds and reds and these autumnal colors, and there's so much light everywhere. It just dazzles me. And that's what I remember from the original BioShock as well. It was an overwhelming, sort of, it's a virtual physical experience, and it was unforgettable. And I see BioShock Infinite now the same way. All the footage has that impact, has that sort of, it just impresses itself on my, my brain.
Mm-hmm. All right, so we're expecting BioShock Infinite on March 26th. If my calendar is correct. And Tyler, I know you continue to be enthusiastic about SimCity.
I do.
Maxis's reinvention of SimCity as a franchise, so really kind of taking it from scratch, putting it on a new engine.
Yeah, I love that Maxis is behind this and in charge of this. And the Glassbox engine, which they've touted and they gave it an interesting name that's fun to repeat because it sounds cool. But it really is something pretty cool, I think. I mean, the idea that they're simulating all these little sims, sort of simulating from the ground up, which SimCity has never really quite done. It's always kind of been these abstracted higher level things, but they're like, no, here is a sim, and he's going to get in his car, and he's going to go somewhere where he can work, and like that has to happen, and you see it visually as your city operates and functions, and everything your city is doing is something that the art director has wanted to put into the world. Like you have data overlays, so if you want to see the numbers and things, you can, but if you see smoke, coming out of a factory, that's because that factory just produced something, so that, the idea of putting data directly into what you're seeing, I think is something we're seeing people capable of doing more now, and abstracting with numbers is sort of, need to anymore because we can see cars moving and that's actually a car moving. So that's just exciting. It does have a few things that concern us. I personally like the idea of multiplayer region play. Having a city next to my friend's city that interacts, and like there's a ton of crime in my city and it goes over to yours, Evan, because I'm a bad mayor and a jerk. But Logan, I know you weren't too keen on it.
I can't explain it. I just don't want a multiplayer SimCity. I just don't. I don't know why. I don't object to it existing in the world or anything like that. But for me, it's just I wouldn't say a private experience. It's just a solo experience.
Well, especially if it means you have to be always online, to play single player. Nobody likes that. That's uncomfortable. Yeah. It's a bad precedent to set. But I agree with you. I object to that. It does offend me. But I'm actually excited about the multiplayer aspects.
Yeah.
They appeal to me. Like
I'll keep an open mind, definitely. Because I do. Yeah.
I expect Logansville to be my city's neighbor, and I expect it to have a low crime rate because I have certain, for my region, I have standards if I'm going to let you in.
But just the notion of great works in SimCity, these sort of like civilization-style wonders that we're collaborating on. You can do them by yourself and just have multiple cities, but like I really like the idea of Tyler and I, like last night we played and like we got 30% closer to finishing a space shuttle or an international airport together. Yeah. And then we're talking about it at work the next day, like, dude, you really need to work on your pollution because it's affecting production of our space shuttle. I know. Get that together.
I love it when like multiplayer games
it's really bad.
Turn into that serious conversation that if anyone were listening in and didn't know the context, it would, Yeah, we do that with Planetside 2 right now, just coming into work and be like, oh, it was a great op, and we we really we fought for the crown well. So I feel like SimCity should facilitate that. I'm confident in everyone I've talked to who's working on it, because like they're so excited. I believe you talked to Stone Lebrande, the lead designer, and he's just really into the mechanics of this and making it work and making it a real reinvention of SimCity. I think has been the goal here. I mean, there's always concerns when it's a big publisher like EA, like, are they going to throw all kinds of DLC out there? The always online thing, is that really necessary, or is that DRM?
Yeah.
There are these questions.
And also kind of stymies the modding community potentially. That's
Exactly.
a question. It's a huge opportunity for mods, obviously. What are they going to do with that?
Yeah, I hope we get mods, but the always online thing, we sort of know tends to mean no. So that's a bit of a bummer. But other than that, just kind of looking at it, I just want to reach in there and start plopping buildings down. There's something really tactile about the way the buildings seem to plop down, and so yeah, I mean, I'll lose some time to it, like I did when I was a kid playing the original. I lost a lot of time, but I learned, and I like that, and I hope kids play it and learn about zoning and all that. Logan, this is a very different game, which you brought up as something that. There was something about it, I guess. Metro Last Light.
Oh yeah, there's lots about it. I mean, it's just the thing that hits me the most is that on the PC, you've always got to have this group of maniacs who just push things so far. They want to push the boundaries way beyond anywhere where they've been before. I mean, the PC's always been the most powerful platform because the hardware is always improving, but so you've always been able to up the anti-aliasing, up the resolution, do all that stuff. But there's always got to be somebody out there who's saying, let's do something no one's ever done before. Let's go way out there, right? And it used to be Crytek. Remember the first time you played Far Cry or Crysis? It was just like, and they knew it. They knew it. They knew the minute you hit that beach when you started Crysis that you were going to see that sunrise, and it was just going to blow you away. Now, Crytek is still great, but they've seemed to have drifted into this this sort of hardware fetishism, with Crysis 2 and 3, where it's just, oh, look at this piece of equipment and look at that set piece and all that. That's fine, I'm sure I'll enjoy it, but it's 4A games that I think is sort of picking it up and is really going, pushing the PC to do things that the detail, I've never seen anything like it before. The way even the bullet cartridges, intermingle with each other after they've been ejected, and it's overwhelming. And it's a world that has already decayed and is overrun. And if you want to evoke horror, if you want to evoke fear and suspense, you do need that sort of, you need atmosphere. And they're really, really pushing it hard.
From what I've seen, it's kind of a common setting. You're like the post-apocalyptic underground city, nuclear wasteland above. But from what I've seen of it, like the detail and the subtlety in like 4A's world designs is like, I haven't seen this world before, and there's so much, the people walking around.
People. Lots of people, different people.
Yeah, people who look different. It's something we've kind of criticized some games for, that like, oh hey, all these characters kind of look the same. It's like every time I play a 4A game, I'm just always impressed at just the just sort of background noise of things happening that really didn't necessarily need to be there, but they knew that subtle touch would sell the scene to me.
Even from the fairly little, I've seen relatively, I get the sense of people, just a giant community of people forced to adapt, to live in a tiny little space together. And it's not always comfortable, it's not always fun, but you've still got children, you've still got friends, people you love. You see that in these interactions that are taking place around in that world.
Yeah, there's kind of something to be said, I think, for that kind of world crafted by Eastern Europeans who, come to that with a certain set of history and arguably more of a personal connection to those circumstances, like growing up in a post-Soviet world.
And I really respect them for saying, we were going to do multiplayer, but we want to focus on single player, so maybe we'll do it after it releases, but we're not going to spend time on something we don't think is going to be that good if we could make the single player better, which
I love that.
Which 4A has the power to do, and it's just nice to hear that happen.
Yeah, like
sometimes.
BioShock.
Yeah.
To me, that's just more evidence that they're like, because we want to push this as far as we can go. And yeah, I'm sure it'll appear on the consoles, and they have to be mindful of that, So, but they still seem to be, the amount of detail I've seen and the interactivity seems to be so far beyond that we'll look at it and we'll say, you know what? It's like that's the new benchmark. That's the new high point.
Well, it'll have Arma 3 to compete with.
It will. So let's see. Let's see how these worlds feel once we jump into them. I can't wait, and it's less than a handful of months away.
March 2013, I think.
Yeah,
is
with
what
Company
they've
of Heroes
said.
2.
Right.
Yeah. So Logan, you also wanted to talk about Lost Planet 3, which I know nothing about. But
Of all things, right.
But you're enthusiastic about. Like, I can trust you on this. But why is sort of a Capcom multi-platform game got your attention?
The original Lost Planet, I was, and the second Lost Planet was even more of a downer. I just didn't enjoy it. I didn't really get it, and I'm very much a survival horror fan, but I just didn't get it. There's Lost Planet 3 has something else. Number one, the first thing I noticed, and it really hit me like a ton of bricks, was the quality of the voice acting.
Cronus Actual, this is Peyton. Listen, I don't know how else to say this, but I think we might have a saboteur on the base.
It matters, we all know that, right? We're always careful to point out great voice acting, but this was such ordinary dialogue delivered so well that immediately, there's this kind of buy-in that I have. It's you play as this dude who's just sort of like the equivalent of a trucker, right? He works long hours, he's kind of ground down by his work, and he does, what any of us would do. He tries to keep his spirit up by talking to his family a lot, and you hear him recording messages for his wife, and it's not, a super original concept, but it's just delivered so naturally and so well that, as a gamer, I'm looking for new experiences. They don't have to be utterly unique to me, Even when he's interacting with his boss or whatever, the voice acting is still fantastic. And then I could just go off about the gameplay, how at one point you're in something that's a lot like the Alien Loader. Who doesn't want to do that? Everybody. Sure. Everybody wants to do that. And I think I just got the feeling that somebody thought, hey, let's do something. Let's not just make a third in a trilogy. Let's do something fresh, something new. Let's put our heart into this. That's honestly the way it felt to me. Like somebody put their heart into this game.
All right, I can appreciate that.
Right.
I'm sort of hoping the same sentiment's going to be present in Amnesia.
Yes.
The second Amnesia game, which is an interesting collaboration between the folks behind Dear Esther, the Chinese Room,
Yeah.
and Frictional Games, the original creators of Amnesia.
Yeah, the Chinese Room is an interesting developer because they sort of have started with source mods. Their most well-known Dear Esther, which is sort of this, I really hate saying experimental game because it's,
That's fair, I think.
But I guess that's fair because there's not a lot of interactivity in it. It's sort of you go to this island and you experience a story by walking around the island. It's sort of like Myst without puzzle solving, really. Although there's a little bit of stuff you can do, But it's about the experience. So they have, and it's all about the atmosphere, and so they have that down definitely. Because I think Dear Esther, as soon as I load it up, I'm like, okay, there's something weird about this island. There's something ominous here. I feel like I'm a character, even though my character hasn't done or anything really. So they definitely have something. But now we have to see, can they do horror? Can they do something more interactive? Because I think one of the things that makes Amnesia really cool is there's the level of sort of detail to the interaction. The idea we've talked about before, pushing a door open and actually having to do that makes it much scarier than if it's just like press the open door, So, and I'm sure with Frictional and them, that'll come together. Their sort of the Chinese room's ability to do ambiance, which they've proven. They said it's not a direct sequel to The Dark Descent, which is, it's just in the same universe. And
I think that's that strikes me as a good sign, right?
Yeah.
Because they're different developers, and so rather than having to follow up on something, they can create,
they can start with their own. Right, and what they've created is Amnesia, a machine for pigs, which is it's an amazing title.
Okay, yeah.
Such an amazing title.
No doubt about that. They win with the title.
Yeah.
Hands down.
Just that. Now I already get shivers when I'm like, a machine for pigs. That's such a weird construction. So yeah. So they said they're going to stay true to the series, and of course they're saying we're going to add new things, unexpected things. I really want to see what those are, and I also kind of don't, because I'm terrified to see what those things are.
But okay, so Dear Esther was wonderfully atmospheric, no doubt about that. Hoofs down. But from there to horror, to fear, is a huge leap,
and
right?
The kind of fear Amnesia does is not easy. I think we all recognize that.
It's not just the jump scares and all that.
Right, and making a scary game has just kind of traditionally been really hard, because you have all these mechanics sort of that get in the way of, when I'm into like a horror novel or watching a movie, I'm just sitting and experiencing something terrifying. But when I have to have mechanics to deal with and learn, that can kind of like, I'm not scared anymore because I just opened my inventory, and there's nothing scary about an inventory. Yeah. And that's what I think they did with Amnesia really well, is that sort of just level of kind of assumed interaction with objects. You just pick them up, you move them.
But horror is hard, I mean, I read a lot of horror, I watch a lot of horror movies, and I think a lot of it is just, I just don't like it, or it's crap, And I wade through a lot of that stuff, but then every once in a while, like, somebody, got it just right.
And there's totally a difference between horror and gore porn.
Exactly.
You don't want to go
I'm just worried.
Here's something really gory, and I'm not creeped out by that. It's just like, ooh, gross. A squishy sounding monster.
I mean, nothing against that,
No, which is kind of where Dead Space.
So I'm hoping for the best, right?
Right. Seems to kind of have gone for me. It wasn't one of the games we had planned to talk about, but Dead Space 3. Everyone was worried with Dead Space 2 that they're going to give Isaac, the protagonist, a voice. That's going to ruin everything, and it kind of didn't. It was okay, but now they've added co-op, and there's kind of, you don't have to play co-op, and they're like, oh, it's going to be scary, but it just kind of looks like a big scary monster, and then someone shouts like, give me ammo, or it's
yeah. And speaking of Dead Space 3, it's like there are these parallels between Lost Planet and the Dead Space series, right? But like I said, they have a lot of similarities, but that doesn't bother me at all. They're different experiences, and they go off in different tangents, and it doesn't. It always bugs me when games get sort of nagged at for being, oh, well, that's so much similar to this or that. I mean, I read books about similar things, relationships. I mean, there's nothing new about that.
And to be fair to Dead Space 3, I don't know what it is capable of pulling off. I'm excited to see if the single player really can have the same feeling of isolation and fear.
Sure.
That the first one, I think, really got just the silence of space and being out in space alone. And that if co-op can also be a fun experience too, with some camaraderie. And so that'll be interesting too, I think.
So those kind of represent the games that we know we're excited about. We're expecting them, most of them early in the year. SimCity, BioShock, Metro as well. But there are definitely some indie games we're hyper excited about as well. Gone Home is one of them that I'm really looking forward to. Had a chance to play it in November. And this is sort of an interesting effort by a new developer called the Fulbright Company, headed up by Steve Gaynor. And some of his fellow co-workers from BioShock 2, Minerva's Den, if you guys play that DLC. And it's really interesting. I mean, I liken it to Amnesia in the sense that it's not a game driven by combat. It's not a horror game at all. But it's sort of more about just the premise is you're returning home to your family home after sort of a long time away overseas, after a year or so overseas, and nobody's home. The house is empty. And it's just sort of this experience of navigating the world, sifting through other people's things, your family, so it's okay.
That's fine.
You're not stealing or anything. And just trying to figure out...
Anyway. You might be, but...
So you're trying to figure out the question, where did everybody go? And it's just sort of this interesting exercise of exploration. It's made in Unity, and it looks great. And what's unique unique about it to me is it's sort of it has adventure elements to it. You're reading lots of like diary entries and looking at your dad's unsuccessful published book and things like that, and excerpts from that. But it's not a horror game, but it's sort of a dark and scary night situation, so it's a little unsettling.
I love the idea of going to your family's home after being away and no one's there, because, I don't know, at least I have had that experience of going back to sort of like the home I grew up in, and when it's dark and my family's not there, everyone's asleep, and just kind of puttering around and just kind of looking at all the things, I kind of have these weird memories. It's an experience that I never really identified as an experience, but it's definitely, I don't know, looking at the lamp that my mom has had for like 30 years, and seeing all that stuff. And there's weird attachments to like just objects and I don't know, the lives of people in their home and what all their stuff says about them. So what an interesting concept to make a game out of.
I think it's just encouraging in general that we're seeing good experiments in games that aren't driven by action, driven by guns.
I think it's a thrilling, experiment, and I hope they knock it out of the park, because it sort of reminds me of the first time I played Last Express, because I didn't really know I didn't even read that much about it. I just thought it sounded interesting, and at first I was a little like, wait, what am I supposed to be doing? Stuff is taking place around me, and it took a while to get my bearing. And then I realized that I've just been dropped into this world, and it's up to me, to navigate my way through and to do my own digging, rather than being led from place to place to place and room to room with these scripted sequences. I was set out to explore, and it was exciting. It was wonderful to piece the story together myself, and that's, when you first told me about Gone Home, I first heard about it from you, and I remember going, hark, because it sounded like that same kind of experience.
Yeah, it's nonlinear in that way.
Yeah.
Yep. Plenty of other indie games to talk about. We don't know too much about Clockwork Empires. We know the premise.
Except that it's called Clockwork Empire,
which is pretty encouraging.
Yeah.
But if you guys haven't heard about this game, it's essentially SimCity with steampunk. If you want to take a very general view of things.
Right. I love that view. I really do.
But I mean, what's encouraging about it? It's being headed up by one of our favorite indie developers, Gaslamp Games, over in Vancouver. And these are the guys that last year in 2011 found a way to take the roguelike and make it accessible, but still kind of preserve the qualities of a roguelike. In Dungeons & Dreadmore, our indie game of the year in 2011, actually.
And so much humor and kind of
just
so well
reverence.
written.
Yeah, geez.
Yeah. So yeah, Clockwork Empire is definitely exciting. Watch Dogs is kind of it's one that I'm totally weird, because I don't know what to, because we saw this demo, and we all went, what are we watching right now?
I'm really skeptical.
And then we're all like, wow, that was really cool. This was all cool. And then they kind of came out and said like, yeah, it's going to do all this stuff and more that you just saw. I mean, the demo is this, it's futuristic. There's hacking. You just have a guy walking around able to sort of like find out what people are thinking and doing by hacking into things and adjusting traffic, and he's assassinating someone, who's on his way to an art gallery and using all these different mechanics, and it looked really interesting. And then they pull out, and it looks like, is this multiplayer? It looks like there's other people, But we've just seen that demo, and it was very pretty, and they made it sound like there's a huge amount of potential for this, but that's kind of one of the wait and see kind of ones. Like that's one that I don't need to play BioShock Infinite to know that BioShock Infinite is something I'm excited about, but this one, I need to get my hands on that.
Exactly.
And find out what it is.
They need to let press play the game and see how deep these systems really are, because they sort of imply that there are a lot of interworking, interrelated systems working there. Where you're like, can I interfere with traffic at any point, or is that a scripted event? I don't know.
Right, exactly.
Yeah, I mean, I remember they said, like, you can hack in anyone's phone at any one time or something. I mean, it's just, the promise was so huge that it was actually a turnoff, because the first thing I think of is, like, no way. If you've got like 75 NPCs, like, you know what you're going to hear. This phone is offline, that phone is offline, over and over again. And if they really did record, 100,000 different permutations of possible things you can hear, then to me that's uncreative, that's wasted effort on just these little minutiae.
Yeah, unless it is
the
all,
game.
unless they are all relevant and things you can use. Like
Right.
If
You
we
know, and
say
keeping
no
an
way,
open mind.
and they come back and say, well, yes way, then my mind will be blown.
I don't know. I mean, they're basically promising like Uplink Hitman, Deus Ex, like
Oh, that was
roll together.
good. Uplink, Hitman, Deus Ex, because that's
All of that.
That's a fine combination.
And it's not possible, especially if it's multi-platform.
Yeah.
But you know, I think it'll still be interesting, whatever form it ends up taking.
Yeah.
Ubisoft is kind of on fire lately. Assassin's Creed 3 but you know.
Yeah.
You know,
Some people said some people said it's the best one, so I don't know, I haven't played it yet.
I didn't think Far Cry 3 just didn't preview well for me at all, and whoa, I played it, like that. So I'm gonna STFU, and just say, yeah, the promise seemed really big to me, but hey, if they pull it off, fantastic.
Yeah, no, totally. These two games are they're not really related, but they're kind of related in the sense that we've kind of seen a lot of them and they're not technically released yet. And that's Monaco is the first one, which we've played and is a really cool.
I've been playing Monaco for like 2 years. I'm like an
It's not
alpha
technically
build we
released.
got a long time ago.
Yeah.
Won the IGF, I
Yeah.
think in 2011, 2010. I
I
don't
mean,
know.
it's won
been
awards
so
for what
long.
it is right now, and yet it's not
Yeah.
technically out. But
Monaco's fantastic. I mean, it's Hitman, Pac-Man.
so this is one we already know we
amazing.
love. Like,
Yeah.
we can already say we're not just excited about it.
And I'm not a social gamer. I'm not really into to co-op, and I love it for some reason. And it's hard for me to isolate why I love playing that. Like in Team Fortress 2, to me, is like kind of like, but it just feels like the same kind of feeling like when you get drunk with a bunch of your friends and you do something incredibly stupid and only later realize how dangerous it was, you know? Sure. Like you broke into a construction yard and climbed a crane. Not that I've ever done that.
That time was, I'm sorry.
You know, but that's what it feels like. It feels like you just had a rowdy time.
And I guess to explain, it's a 2D heist simulator, basically, co-op heist simulator. Very simple, stylized graphics. Everyone has a role, and you just have to go in with your friends and pull off the perfect heist.
Yeah, and there's kind of a lightheartedness to it that I like. That is evocative of like Pac-Man and other arcade games. Like police will chase you around and shoot at you, but you'll respawn or something.
Does it play like the Benny Hill theme on there?
Yeah, totally. Yeah, I mean, to touch on Spy Party, I mean, really interesting thought experiment, a reverse Turing test.
Yeah, I think that's the other game I was referring to, because Spy Party's been playable for a while.
Totally, in the same way it's been in beta kind of through most of this year, I think.
But there have been revealed some like new sort of concepts for like, because the graphics are minimalistic at the moment.
Yeah, it basically art confirmed.
Art has been confirmed. But what it is, like you were saying, it's this Turing test, reverse Turing test, where you have one player at the party among a bunch of AI and PCs, and that player is trying to act as much like an NPC as possible, while also delivering a package.
Well, executing like a spy objective, basically.
Spy objective. And then you have the other player who's the sniper and has to determine who the spy is, which is just such a great idea.
It is.
It has a contemplative feel to me, like chess. You know, it's just the careful regarding of, just all these different variables that are in play. And for the record, I'm terrible at chess, so this does not bode well for me. But it has that feeling, and so.
And something I never thought of, which when I found out about it, I was like, wow, that makes so much sense. Is the idea that Spy Party could be a competitive game. Seth Killian, who used to be at Capcom, who was co-founder of EVO, the huge Street Fighter convention, went and said, hey, I want you to bring Spy Party to EVO. Because I think this is a competitive game. And so that happened. It was at this huge competition and this is a game that Street Fighter fans are probably going to look at and be like, what is this? But it is really fun to watch.
People in party dresses,
Yeah. But if you watch the YouTube videos and you kind of know who the spy is and you're watching the sniper, it's like that. It's tense watching someone like move the scope around, try to find, it is a good game to watch. And I never thought about that as something like, yeah, I would like to watch two really good people play this game, because that's a crazy amazing back and forth.
So how do we feel about Fortnite? This is sort of a surprise announcement from Epic. We actually didn't know first that it was going to be PC exclusive, and then it turned out to be, and so then our ears kind of picked up.
And then Cliff Bleszinski sort of came out for a while and started going, no, you know what? It's all about the PC now. next gen consoles, they can't handle Unreal, Engine 4. And, okay, I'm paraphrasing, but he came out and said, really in support of the PC again,
Really
which we have not heard from him. And then he left Epic. So I don't think it has anything to do with Fortnite or anything to do with what he was doing there. He wanted a new direction, but kind of the most vocal advocate for the PC has left. I don't think that means Epic's going to go, actually, it's multi-platform now. I think they'll stay on course. But co-op fort building and survival, those are proven to be fun. It's not new. That's all we kind of know about what it is.
Yeah.
It looks pretty. If that's actual, if that hasn't been perfectly choreographed footage we're seeing.
Yeah. I mean, the two big questions for me right now are how open are the systems? Are users going to be able to contribute things like recipes and items? How open is it going to be like Minecraft, where the community kind of just came in and was like, oh yeah, here's like 10,000 mods and they're all better than what Mojang is doing. Well, I don't want to generalize, but they're all really good. Yeah. But do these incredible things. And just how good is the technology going to be for building and construction and the combat? I mean, it's an ambitious sounding game, but
it is.
It's a cool concept.
And I understand it's the first, I think, Unreal Engine 4 game. An interesting choice to go with something that's sort of Team Fortress-y in style, and I say that because it's just the closest analog. It's a little bit cartoony.
It's
so
not
interesting,
realistic.
Interesting to go, like when they show their tech demos, it's like this crazy big demon thing, and then and now they're like, oh, look at these fun characters, and it's like, I'm kind of glad they took that direction in a way. But yeah, that's another wait and see kind of thing. I think we also wanted to hit on, because I don't think we could talk about all of them individually, the fact that 2013 is kind of a huge year for strategy games.
Oh my gosh.
We have more StarCraft 2, Heart of the Swarm. We have Company of Heroes 2, Total War Rome 2, and a free-to-play Command and Conquer made by BioWare.
Hey, we'll take it.
We'll take it.
I mean,
okay. I mean, that was going to be Generals 2, and then it was like decided that we're going to do a free-to-play one. I'm a little bit disappointed that right off the bat we're not going to get a campaign, because for me, Command and Conquer is about cheesy full motion video stuff. And sort of cheesy dialogue and playing the campaign. Yeah.
I agree with you. They've also tried that in the last like 2 or 3 games.
Yes, and honestly, I haven't, honestly, since Red Alert 2, I kind of haven't paid much attention to it. But going free to play as far as a decision, I think is a pretty good one for that game. And they've said maybe we'll add a campaign.
Yeah, Rome 2 looks amazing. Just
wow.
It really, I think it's going to sort of set a new benchmark for PC graphics performance, along with Arma 3.
The scale of it.
I mean, you're kind of going to want an i7 or something to run that game. I have a feeling, system specs haven't been released yet, but just the level of detail, and the level of detail like at a granular level when you're seeing a siege tower move forward up against a wall, and the commander is dynamically, it seems to be, based on the demo they showed to us, yelling to his troops just because you're hanging out in that area. I really think I expect the game to sort of achieve a movie-like level of quality. But yeah, it's kind of remains the standard for grand strategy.
So it's a pretty huge release.
No joke.
It's exciting.
And there's also, I mean, there were a ton of Kickstarter games. And sort of the crossover here is Planetary Annihilation. Yeah. Sort of the spiritual successor to Total Annihilation we're seeing from guys from Uber Entertainment, creators of Monday Night Combat, and yeah,
planet throwing.
You can throw celestial bodies at other celestial bodies. That is a strategy game. That is it. Just seeing a whole planet and realizing you can kind of look around it and move troops and move them, and I don't know. Just it is exciting. Just sort of on the merits of like the idea when you see it in video. You look at this idea and you're like, this is an idea that I like. I want to see someone make this. We don't necessarily know exactly how well everything's going to work here, but I think we're pretty excited about the idea.
Yeah, they got a ton of funding. It's really encouraging. Yeah. But a lot of their games got a ton of funding this year.
Yeah, I mean, this is totally new. This whole, way
category.
Of making games. The whole idea that fans can invest in an experience that they want, and then developers can get support for the games they want to make before they have to go invest in making them. They don't have to have publisher looking over their shoulders. This is
have to
totally
rely on publisher assumptions about what everybody
Right.
wants,
Yeah.
right? And a lot of those are just superstition.
So this is totally new, but we don't. This is so new. We don't really know how it's all going to pan out. I mean, we haven't. Most of these games that have been funded, they haven't happened yet. Double Fine Adventure. I'm not sure if they were shooting for. I think they were shooting for this year, and they missed it. They were shooting for August, I believe. So that'll be next year, and Wasteland 2, Shadowrun Returns.
I'm really excited about.
others.
Yeah, I mean, there are too many to list. I'm really.
Carmageddon Reincarnation. If they get it right, I'll be the happiest person on earth. Seriously, I can't wait. I mean, there was nothing else like it. People used to complain all the time, oh, the physics are so unrealistic. Yeah, that was the whole.
So is getting it right, making the physics strange and arcadey and unrealistic?
Well, it's just the original games had a set of rules that once you mastered them, you could create unbelievable havoc. You know, so that it's just that kind of feeling. However they get it, however they go for it, and like I could bank really hard on an overpass and flip my car off the overpass and smash another car, you know, way down on the street below me and obliterate it, and then go doot, 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 repair my car instantly, and then go hit a cow. You know what I mean?
Logan, that sounds unrealistic. I don't want to do that. That
That's all
really
I'm
fun
saying.
thing is just not realistic.
Bring it back. Bring it back.
Well,
So-
as I understand it, some of the original creators of Carmageddon are working on this. So
Oh, love hearing that.
yeah, that is what I've heard. So good.
No, I just wanted
Be
to say that
happy.
I was interested in that game. And
Just slightly
Understood.
interested.
I mean, Dead State is a game that I'm really looking forward to. Sort of a Fallout takeout on the zombie apocalypse, isometric, party-based RPG. It's like I mean,
Very well.
I mean, imagine like original Fallout. I'm talking like isometric.
Evan, an isometric party-based RPG on Kickstarter.
There were a few of those
What
this
are you
year.
talking
There were a
about?
few of those, but you know, it's being headed up by Brian Mitsoda, who wrote and helped design Vampire the Masquerade, which is an amazing underrated RPG.
Yeah.
And I just think, you know, there's so many zombie games.
You can still pick up Vampire the Masquerade. Saying.
We continue to talk about zombie games, and you know, but there's a lot of untapped territory there still. And I like the idea of a Fallout-style game, turn-based combat, where you know, sort of your base is an elementary school set in Texas. Like that's really appealing to me, just as a concept. And yeah, looking forward to that. All right, Logan and Tyler. Kickstarter was arguably the biggest trend, the biggest story, you know, the biggest sort of game changer, literally and
Yeah.
figuratively.
There were a few weeks where we couldn't like not post a story about a new Kickstarter
Yeah.
game every day.
Yeah.
They just came fast and
all those
furious.
emails. But you know, it's something we're grateful for, I think. It was kind of the biggest trend in 2012. And it's going to be interesting to see how this and other trends shape 2013. I think just the success of indie games in general, just the way that like we're living in a gaming world where indie developers, individuals, you know, small teams can really compete creatively, and they're kind of on the same stage now, I feel like.
Yeah.
They're very much on the same stage. I mean,
It's amazing. And the barrier to entry for making a game and having it on Steam, on GOG, on these big distribution platforms is like, it's just, it's not a big deal now when I see a game that was made by like 1 or 2 people and it's on the front of Steam, you know, being promoted along with multi-million-dollar, you know, budget games.
Right.
And it doesn't faze me. It might have, you know, several years ago. But I think it's amazing. It's so exciting to see stuff like
look
FTL.
how different it is from like Hollywood, where you know you've got these huge studios, and then you know I've kept you know bunches of independent studios just clamoring for those extra scraps of attention that are left over. But in games, if you've got the talent, you can get the group together, and you can be on Steam, you know, quickly, and you can make a name for yourself. It's amazing how equalized the playing field is. And if it happens on the PC, then it happens everywhere.
Yeah, the PC to me is a platform where there's just almost no distinction now between players and creators. You know, if you play games on the PC, you can probably learn how to mod games on the PC, learn how to make your own games, and even mod games. Like you look at Black Mesa, which is a recreation of Half-Life 1 in the Source engine. Put it on Steam Greenlight, and Valve said, sure. You know, that's amazing. This is this mod fan-made thing, and it's being distributed on Steam. so that's super exciting. We definitely loved FTL, of course.
Yeah, FTL, Hotline Miami, you
Hotline
loved.
Miami, and these are like simple in the sense that they're 2D and simple graphics, but just really good ideas, really fun, and that's what we want to see, and that's what we get on the PC that's so exciting. Is just that experimentation.
Yeah, I mean, this is really kind of the best possible trend where, again, we're gaming in a time where the ideas are winning. You know, it's not the marketing, it's not the hype always. I mean, it's still present. There's still a distinction between, you know, big budget developers and indies, but to see the recognition that Walking Dead has received just by itself, for example, and for arguably changing the adventure game genre, making it not about puzzles, making it not about you know, item combination and things like that, and just focusing on characters. You know, it's an existing franchise, it's a comic book and a television show, has a huge amount of, you know, awareness around it, but the idea is one there.
Yeah, but I mean, being an existing huge sort of comic book and television show almost could have been bad for it, because when people say, oh, they're making a game based on that, well, it's gonna suck. And I think that was kind of people's impressions, because they had played some of other, you know, Telltale's other, like Jurassic Park. And so you go, oh, Telltale's, okay. But then people played it and were like, that's actually really, really good. And I think, you know, we got behind Telltale for finding that success after, you know, some bumps, but they kept experimenting, and they you know, genres really changed this year in 2012, I think, and they'll keep changing.
I think the PC drives all innovation in the video game industry. I really do. I really believe that. You know, we develop new genres. You know, DayZ comes out of nowhere, and
it's already got a mutation. The Warzy, like there's already. So it is like, I think one more game and it's a genre. I think 3 is a genre. It's a genre,
you know, and then with new business models. Oh, hey, here's a new way to you know, hey, we're not going to put DRM on our games, or we're going to try giving away the alpha for free, or look how Minecraft started. You know, all the industry, all the real innovation comes out of the PC, and then we reinvent older genres like the adventure genre. Everybody thought, oh, it's gone, but here came somebody with a new vision, with new ideas, just like you said, and then boom, there's suddenly this huge audience, and we break up these assumptions that the industry's clung on to for so long. Like, oh no, how can we possibly make money when there's piracy out there? You know, well, you know, The Witcher has sold over 2 million copies by now, I think. You know, and it released day one, you know, without DRM. Minecraft, you know, released. You know, anybody could have pirated it, but it's done unbelievably well, you know?
Yeah, it's that sort of cross-pollination where business decisions and sort of new distribution models, free to play, you know, you just isolate that by itself. When those are influencing it and leading to better ideas and more creative ideas about, you know, game design itself, that's what's most exciting to me. I mean, PlanetSide by itself, you know, there are a lot of ways it kind of couldn't exist if it was a $60 game with that barrier to entry. Because you need sort of a critical mass of people playing it for it to be entertaining.
And that's something, you know, we heard from them, is we need people who don't spend money in the game, but they just have to be in the game because it doesn't work.
Yeah, the
game's
players
not
are the
full.
content. Players like the content.
Right, exactly.
We see that in EVE Online as well.
So, you know, if there's a complaint, I wish I could have just paid $60 and gotten everything because that's what I prefer. I don't think the game could have existed if it were on a subscription model. You just wouldn't have enough people in there. So the free-to-play sort of became a thing more so in the US in probably 2010. I think it's evolving now, and I mean, you know, it's not just upstarts like Riot. Now it's like Sony saying, yeah, and now it's almost every MMO that comes out going, us too, I guess. So that's cool.
And all of this is happening right alongside, you know, the generation of user content everywhere. You know, where else does that happen? You know, that kind of participation.
And that's something Sony's doing too. They have plans for allowing people to submit ideas for or creations, models for PlanetSide 2 and EverQuest and stuff.
Yeah,
to be sold.
Their version of Steam Workshop, essentially.
Exactly. I haven't heard much about it since they announced it, but yeah, like I said, players are creators, you know, on the PC, which is great, and they're also funders, you know.
It's a creativity platform, the entire thing.
Yeah. You know? So I guess we're all kind of expressing the general health at the state of things. I mean, esports continues to grow every single year. The League of Legends Season 2 Championship, I think, drew 8.2 million viewers, the highest ever for an esports event.
That's a lot of people.
Big success. All these tournaments are awarding like $1 million prizes and stuff like that.
Right. And I think it would be rivaling even a physical American sports right now if it wasn't for the fact that different games sort of split off the esports attention. And as a result, it may not ever be as much of a single, giant thing
entity.
like football. Exactly.
Sure.
But yeah, it's getting bigger every year, and as people's visual literacy increases, with these games, it's just going to become more and more of a collective form of entertainment.
Absolutely.
And you talked about sort of business models informing creativity, which I think is great. The Humble Bundles continue to do great. Oh, right. And support charity.
And support THQ.
And support THQ. Yeah, THQ dipped their toes in and
And they got $5 million when they dipped their toe in.
They dipped their toe in and they pulled out $5 million. But it's I don't think THQ makes bad games. It was kind of an interesting choice for them to use this sort of model that was kind of for indies, never explicitly for indies, but it was an experiment. I'm happy to see people. They're you never think of Activision's going to do an experiment with their business model. So maybe it is a good thing.
Oh my God, it's fantastic because for peanuts, you could, for the minimum amount of money, all these people got exposure to the incredible games that they've released.
And in the end, charities also won. So,
I mean, I think it's good from a broad perspective. My hope is that these sorts of experiments by larger developers like THQ, though this one may have been done out of necessity, will sort of get these big companies that are have this long institutionalized ingrained use of retail. And they're thinking in terms of $60 box products and distributors, even if they're mostly digital companies. Get them out of that comfort zone. Wait, we can just put this game on sale. Why don't we? We'll sell it to a bunch more people that didn't buy it when it came out.
I can understand if they, the fear that, we're devaluing this property, we're making it seem cheaper, and then we'll have to sell the next game cheaper. But I don't personally see it that way at all. The way I look at it as a gamer and as a consumer is, okay, there's one genre over here that I'm not going to pay $60 for it. I've never historically liked it. Why would I do that? But then all of a sudden they say, hey, you know what? For a limited time, we're going to let you buy it for $5. And then suddenly I'm playing RTSs every day. That's an easy way to broaden your audience and scoop all these extra people up.
When I see a sale, I don't go, oh look, this is 50% off on Steam. I don't go, yeah, the games aren't worth that much, are they? I buy it and then I play it, and then maybe I'll buy a different game for $50 or $60 because I really want it right now, even if I know it's going to be cheaper.
Yeah, I mean, so PC gaming I think continues to be, in our opinion, the most affordable gaming platform.
By far.
Yeah,
by far.
In terms of what you get for how much you can pay.
Right. The return on it, yeah. If people are still saying that the barrier to entry, money-wise, for PC gaming is too high, then they're not looking at their collection of $60 boxes. And if you took all of those and put money value to them, you would have a great gaming PC, and you could be playing PlanetSide 2 with me right now for free. So, I mean, yes, it is kind of you've got to learn what kind of components you want. It's not an out-of-the-box solution yet, although
Valve's working on that.
Valve's working on that apparently.
In some way.
I mean, it sounds like it was just kind of a comment made at the VGAs, which is strange. That sounds like Valve does want to release some kind of hardware that you can plug into your TV with Steam on it. What that is kind of unclear right now. Is it a console or is it a PC next to your TV? Who knows?
Yeah, we'll see.
I just love the idea of a cheap, simple, and very quiet box I'd toss in my living room, and then suddenly you have that console experience where you hang out on the couch with friends.
Totally. Yeah, I mean, just to wrap up, I mean, if we're talking about 2013, we have to sort of also talk about games that sort of came out in 2012 in different forms. MechWarrior is technically in open beta right now. PlanetSide 2 is out, of course. Dota 2 technically in beta, although you can buy all these different things in it.
Yeah, Guild Wars 2 people are playing.
But all these games, are going to develop. We expect them to develop a lot and mature a lot.
These are
in
services.
2013. They're living.
Again, yeah, that's related to the idea of the difference of the retail box done versus what the PC is, what has happened to the PC in the last few years, where it's we're not going to stop talking about PlanetSide 2. nowhere near what it's going to become right now.
Right.
I mean, when we look back on what it is now, I think we're going to be like, wow, I can't believe that interface used to look like that, you know, because the job's not done at all, and I can't wait to see what they do, because it's already at a place where there's like, yeah, there are some problems with it, but just like the potential, I feel for it. I already spent like $50 in it, and I don't regret it, because I feel like I've already gotten $50 of enjoyment out of it compared to another game I could have played. So I'm excited about all that. Yeah, everything that came out recently, sort of in the free-to-play. MechWarrior Online, I don't have a kill yet.
I'll get you there.
I'm sorry, Evan. I'm going to need some training.
You're shaming me.
You could just hug another mech and then self-destruct.
But
How
you know
about
what? I love that I don't have a kill yet, because that means it's the MechWarrior game that I wanted it to be.
Oh, that's true.
You know, it's not easy. Hawken's a different kind of mech game that just went into open beta. It's more of an action sort of shooter, but then, you know, that's fine. That's a different thing. And like you've said many times, mechs are a lot of fun to shoot.
They are. There's something about them. Their modular nature. Yeah.
And there's so much we have to be excited to hear more about. We were talking about genres changing and coming back. Chris Roberts, the creator of Wing Commander, said, I wonder if anyone wants another space sim, and got like, what, $5 million, $6 million? Like,
Yeah, it turns out, yes,
yes,
we do.
We would like a
like
multiplayer space sim and single player. And that also kind of is a perfect example of what we're going to learn about crowdfunding, because the ambitions he's laid forth are huge, and all he had to show to get this funding was a prototype.
Yeah, he's made a ton of promises.
And a ton of promises that you know, and I'm not saying he can't. He is a, you know, sort of a luminary in the genre, but it's like, okay, I can't wait to see how this goes, because it's an experiment for everyone.
Well, there's still this enormous amount of tension with Kickstarter, because you know that the huge bubble is going to burst someday. Like, somebody's going to fail spectacularly.
Yeah, there's going to be one story where we're just like, oh,
I mean, a lot of projects have, you know, sort of collapsed so far, but there's going to be a big one someday, and everyone's going to be like, whoa.
Another big one that was funded this year was Project Eternity, but I think it's not out till 2014.
Right. Yeah.
Good on them for setting a realistic release date, unlike, you know.
Another great example of the stuff that is going on now and will get even bigger through 2013 is like, who would have thought a text adventure was going to be really galvanizing and feel fresh this year? But there's a game called Cypher that does that. It's a classic text adventure, but it does use visuals that are beautiful and very Blade Runner-like, and it's got a very comic book feel. And there's tons of new adventure games coming out, especially from Wadjet Eye Games. And I feel like I can go home and kick back with my laptop in a big, comfy chair, and I'm basically, you know, playing these interactive novels with stories that are fantastic now. And again, this was a genre that everybody was eulogizing about a year ago, maybe.
Text adventures?
Text adventures and classic adventures.
Adventures
you know?
in general, yeah.
Yeah, you know, and wow, there's so much great stuff.
Yeah, and I saw The Cave. That should be out January. That's Ron Gilbert's new adventure game. And he's certainly happy to see that The Walking Dead is doing really well, because, I mean, that's the kind of game he wants to make, and he wants there to be a market for it, and there is. That's been proven, and that's exciting, because more of those is great. And go to GOG sometime and look at the library there. There's probably stuff you've never ever heard of that is really good.
You could spend
and it's probably like $3.
Yeah, for $3 a piece.
Every Friday they have a sale. Every Friday they have a big sale, and it's 50% off, like some category of games. You know, they'll do adventure games. They'll do a certain publisher. So go look on a Friday, and like, if you're willing to spend $3, you might find something that just takes your weekend away.
I could build a PC for somebody right now for $450, and then go to GOG.com. And you know, spend $30 over there, and you'll be busy for the next 2 years. You know, easily. I mean, that's where we're at with PC gaming today. It's unbelievable. It's fantastic. It's heaven. It's utopia.
All right. So that's kind of our view of 2013 as it looks. Thanks for listening to our conversation, our preview of 2013, and sort of the trends that we're seeing that are planting the seeds for what we're expecting in 2013, expecting some games to blossom through Kickstarter, through other sources. But just sort of to sum things up, I mean, just our encouraging sentiment is kind of an across-the-board one. I mean, in terms of business model, in terms of value, in terms of creativity, experimentation, both in AAA and on the indie side, it's something we're continuing to see. And platform is stronger than ever. I mean, you know, we write for PC Gamer, but I think we feel that sincerely.
It's a fertile field, and anything can grow there, you know, and it is growing. It's just coming up left and right, you know, rather than these sort of well-manicured.
Right. It's a platform where if it's a good idea, it'll work, and you execute it well.
Absolutely,
it has a chance to work.
right.
So, yeah, 2013 is going to be great, I think. I mean, like, if nothing else, it'll be exciting because there's so much stuff that we're going to see, more indie stuff.
Yeah. No doubt. All right. Hope you guys enjoyed our conversation.
Please join us in 2013.
Yeah, read more about the games of 2013 on PCGamer.com. We will be here next year.